Junior high kids, bro. Junior high kids all day long. So, before we get started, let's just take into account that I'm wearing closed-toed shoes, pants, and a non-Texas Ward Dickinson shirt. So, this is actually a really big day. So, before we get started, you all need to do me a favor and come and get, if you want to, well, please do this. Come get a half sheet and a pencil and some colored pencils if you want to. Please and thank you. Vámonos. Let's go. I'm not this tall. About that tall. Good. Perfect. But just to let y'all know, I do have my whistle, just in case. My security blanket that I always have is always my whistle. I have it wherever we go. What? Again, junior high kids and my kids, I'm good. Alright, so while y'all do that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, alright, so the first thing we're going to need to do is, hey Nathan, can you put the first picture up there for me, please, and thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started while y'all are doing that. About 20-ish years ago, I was coming up from one of my friend's house. It was just a normal, average day. We were playing basketball, hanging out, doing whatever 20-somethings do. And I was going home, and my intent was to come back and continue doing what we were doing. However, that happened. I was going home. The steering went out, and going about 30-ish miles an hour, on the driver's side, I hit the telephone pole, kind of right there. The car took the brunt of the force, which was a great thing for me. Okay? But, however, next picture. Well, the first thing y'all are going to notice, I know, no facial hair. And look at those massive muscles, guys. Look at that. Young Thundercat doing his thing. But if the clarity was better on these screens and it wasn't 2005, y'all would also notice I have two missing teeth here. I have a scar that's still there that goes from the center of my lip all the way over to the outside of my mouth. After that accident, I spent the next 12 hours in a hospital, getting stitches, getting x-rays taken on my jaw and on my head, and to check if I had a concussion. So, that's what that happens there. But what you're also not going to notice is this guy, he was really, really angry. Really, really angry. Not so much at himself that it happened, but so much that things weren't going his way. It was in a situation where I would just kind of do what I wanted to do. Kind of treat people how I wanted to treat them. Kind of just living my life. And around this time, I also came up with the phrase WWTD. Now, if you grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was what would Jesus do? But this became what would Thomas do? So that thought would permeate for the next 18 months after this accident. After this accident, for the next 18 months, I just did kind of whatever I wanted to do. It was filled with doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, traveling back from ETBU numerous times. the end of that 18 months, this kid got academically suspended, got sent home to meet TBU, and was kind of at the lowest part. But that's kind of not where the story ends. So, during that, I would just sit there and ask God, like, what's going on? I did all the right things. I used to do all the right things. Used to just do what you said, and it didn't work out. And then he said, and it's still a small voice. I don't know if that's how God talks to y'all, but that's how God talks to me. Still small voice was, are you ready to try it my way now? Are you ready to do it my way? So, this is what that guy's learned over the next 20 years. So, in the lectionary this week, I've noticed there's one main thing. It was witness what God is doing. Witness what God is doing and how he is doing it. So, to be a good teacher, I have to explain these things. Okay, this is a half sheet. Each verse that we saw is going to have 3 sections. My list makers, I got you. You can make a list. My people who like to write stories and like to write, you can write it on that one. And my friends, my arty friends, who like to draw and color and things like that, that would be the bottom section. So everybody's going to be taken care of. So, but there'll be a perfect time for that. You can do it, you cannot do it. It doesn't really affect me because, you know, my son told me don't blow it today, so there's not really much y'all can say. That's going to be worse than that. So, Nathan, Psalm 4, please and thank you. I'm not going to read it to y'all. I'm just going to let y'all see it, and I'm going to pause while y'all read it. So, the thing that stands out to me is, answer me when I call you. Answer me. So, I don't know about y'all, but there's been times where it's been in my life, I'm like, God, where are you? Why aren't you answering me? Why aren't you doing this? Where are you? Just angry questions, confusing questions. Questions that you're just like, well, I thought you said this, and then I did this, and it didn't work out. I heard you say this, and I did this, and it didn't work out. And every time that those questions come up in my mind, I think about my kids. I think about my son Reuben in the middle of the night, that he will cry, and I will be right awake. I will go in there, and I will see what's wrong. It may be a bad dream. It may be also in the situation where he wandered out of his bed. That may be a situation that's happened. Then, I think about my son Reuben and Jude. Jude cries and just shouts out, Papa, where are you? Papa, where are you? Because he's scared. He's in the middle of the room, his room that he's been in his whole life. But he's scared because he doesn't know where I am. Next, I think about my son Amos, who when he makes poor decisions, and he has to serve consequences for his poor decisions, he looks at me and says, why is this happening? I didn't do anything wrong. This, that, and the other. Now, he's 7, 4, and 2 years old. But we're adults here, and teenagers. We do that too. It's the same thing we do. God, why is this happening? God, I did it right, God. I was right. I did what you said. Why did this happen? But you got to read the end of it. Be gracious to me and hear my prayers. It says grace that brings us to him. It says grace that continues to welcome you in. And he hears you. So this is the thing, that the God of the universe hears you. The God of the universe isn't just going to walk in and just save you like, okay, I got it. Clean it up. The God of the universe will step down and go, let's do this together. And help fix things, mold things, change things with you and me in situations that need to be changed. But he won't just come in and save you. He may, but historically in my life, that's not what he does. He comes alongside you and walks with you through these scary things. As people, we've realized that that's what we need. We don't need someone to come in and be this great white knight to save the day for us. We need someone to come alongside of us and do it. And the psalmist did this hundreds of years before Jesus came. Lo and behold, when Jesus does come and he does meet with people, he doesn't just come and solve their problems. He comes, has dinner with them, sits with them, eats with them, converses with them, hangs out with them. I just imagine a random Tuesday with the disciples and Jesus just hanging out, just being friends, just dwelling together. So, now we're going to go to the first thing on the guided notes. That's a good teacher in me. Give y'all guided notes. You can see that there's two columns there. There's one column that's like, okay, this is a situation that I know God's going to help me in. These are the situations that I know God has shown up in. If you want to jot them down, color them, do whatever you want to do. And then the one on the right, I'll show y'all. Either one, I don't care which one you pick. But then there's the situations where, yeah, but God, you can't be in it with me in this. You can't be here with me when I'm doing this. Because I've noticed, that those are the moments where God shows up. What he has done, what you kind of want him to do. Because historically, he wants you to be a witness to what he's doing. Yeah? So, I'm going to pause and give y'all 90 seconds to do it for yourselves. So watch. This is how it goes. Good teachers do this. Hey Siri, set a timer for 90 seconds.
1 minute and 30 seconds. Counting down.
Time. Hey Nate. Next slide. Prove it. Now, God's heard our cries, like the psalmist says. And like I've already alluded to, he proved it. But now, we live in 2024, where most things that people say, people want proof of. For it to be shown me like, okay, how does it work? Prove it to me that this is actually going to work. Prove it to me that this is how it goes. So, that leads me to Luke 24. Next slide, go. Boom. Boom. So they're afraid. He's died. He's back. And they're afraid. So oftentimes in life, or at least my life, I don't know about your life, God will do these great things, these wonderful things, and then you just try to explain it away with science. You just try to explain it away like, oh, that's just odds. That's just how it's supposed to go. That's just science and how things work. And in this passage, it talks about, why are you troubled? Why do doubts arise in your hearts? If you keep reading, and we all know the story, Jesus told them that this would happen. Jesus told them that he would die. Told them that he would be back. But there's still doubt. There's still fears. There's still moments where you're like, no, that's not really going to work out for me. That's not really how it works. So, I have a perfect story for this. When we were trying to get pregnant, 10 years ago, we had to do IVF. There's a whole story. We can't get into that now, but talk to me and we will get into that. We've had many losses. Many losses. And then we go to the doctors. Well, the whole IVF process, there's implantation, there's 2 weeks, blah, 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 science. That's how science works. Y'all got the blah, blah, blah. All my scientists like blah, 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 blah. I know that really just bothered the joke, but my bad. But there's a 2-week window after implantation before you can actually hear a baby's heartbeat. Okay? In those 2 weeks, I think Ashley and I did not. Ashley took 6,282 pregnancy tests. And she would send photos of everyone. AM, PM, AM, PM, AM, PM, next day. There's the 2 pink lines that y'all know, 2 pink lines. But still, there wasn't that proof. Still, that wasn't that proof that, well, yeah, there's not a baby in there yet. These are just 2 pink lines. Fast forward to September 28th, when the proof is right there on the floor. The proof is right there. And it took me that long to trust that God was going to be faithful. It took me that long to be like, no, to think it's really going to happen. Because in our lives, at least in my life, I've realized that we need to see it. These disciples weren't crazy. They weren't out of their minds. They were people who needed to see it. And the funny thing is, when I keep reading, you keep thinking, there's no way God's going to indulge this. Nope, yeah, he does. Nope, yeah, he does. He's like, okay. He kind of gets on them a little bit. But, make sure they can see at the top of my head. I'm bald, but they can see that. He does indulge that. So, that brings me to the next section. Where in your life, your family's life, our church's life, the United States' life, the world's life, do you need to see it? Do you need to see that God is love? Where do you need to see and for God to prove it? Because I've also learned in life that if you ask and ask expectantly, he may answer it. He may not answer in the way you want him. He probably won't. But he'll answer. Yeah. Because he just promised us earlier. We cry out, and he'll answer. So, in the next 90 seconds, in the next section, write questions. What questions do you have? What answers do you need? You're not going to share these. That's not my business. That's your business. What questions do you have, and what proof do you need? Hey Siri, set a timer for 90 seconds.
1 minute and 30 seconds. Starting now.
She always corrects me. We're saying the same thing. Next slide, let's go. So, he hears us. He proves it to us. But then if you're anything like me, but you're just thinking, why? Why would he do this? And the whole lectionary is kind of building up to this. All three of them kind of go together. Be a witness to what God's doing. Ask God questions and be witness to how he's living. But now we can be witness to who we are. This isn't come and say, you will become this. It never says, you are becoming. The third word in there is, you are. We are. It's an active right now. You do not have to change. You do not have to make yourself up to be this great thing. You don't have to go and be like, okay, but God doesn't really know about this, so I'm going to keep this from him. No. That doesn't really work out. It's, we are God's children. Now, that brings me to this point. We all are God's children. Now, that coworker that you don't really like, that family member that you don't really like, that neighbor who votes differently than you, that person who cheers for you, Oklahoma, that person who are Cowboys fans, those people who just live differently than you, they're also God's children also. Now, in 2024, we got to keep thinking, how are we going to live life with people who are not like us? One thing, if y'all know me at all, I don't see I. Whenever we sing these songs, there's not an I. There's a we. There's an us. It's a communal thing that we're in this together. And that's a we. It's a we thing. And so we're in this together. So, you're just thinking, okay, all right, Kinsel, you're rambling, moving your hands. There's a lot going on, right? How do y'all think God wants us to live? He appears we shall be like him, because we shall see him as he is. Now, that's how he wants us to live, like him. Try to live in peace with people. Try to make it right with people. Those people you don't necessarily like, live in peace with them. I'm not saying be best friends with them. I'm not saying follow them on Instagram or whatever. I'm saying live in peace. Because in that, God will be revealed as he is. And we will be revealed like him. So, I was trying to find on the Instagram and the internet, you know that Spider-Man photo with their two Spider-Mans pointing at each other? I was trying to do that, but it got weird. And I didn't want to pick this one. It just seemed weird. And then there's copyright things. It's on the internet, and I don't want them to sue me because I ain't got no money, but they couldn't get that. But we're all good. But I am made in God's image. You are made in God's image. And we are designed to be like him. Now, for the next 90 seconds. This is going to be the hard one because I'm not very drawly. I don't like to draw. Stick figures are the best I can do. But I know some of my friends out here do like to draw. I do know some of my friends out here do like to color and things like that. So, in the next section, the biggest section, my son likes to color too. My man. Looks delightful. Draw, quick sketch, quick draw. What you think it's going to look like when God's revealed. What is God revealed Jesus is revealed, and we shall be like him. When you hear that phrase, Jesus is revealed, and we shall be like him, what picture or image comes to your mind? Hey Siri, set a timer for 90 seconds.
1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thought that was my kid. Next slide, let's go. There we go. So, I never ask you to do something that I'm not going to do myself. Okay? So, I'm going to show y'all when God revealed comes to my mind, and I had a lot longer to think about this than y'all did. So, if y'all did something like this on your sheet of paper, impressive. So, this guy just celebrated 40 years. That guy moved home, reestablished a relationship with Christ, and during that same time, met one of his good friends who was dating this young lady. And this young lady had a sister. Her sister is right there. Right there. The girl. That's what we call it at the house. She's the girl. That guy also goes on to graduate, goes on to start a career, goes on to be a teacher and mold young people every day. Those three crazy faces is a visual representation to me every day of God's faithfulness. That when it gets dark, that God will be faithful, God will be revealed, simply because we are his children. And he loves us. So, that is way more than my time. But, hold on. I'm going to be a good teacher and give good teacher roles here. We're going to review what we talked about. You have your half sheets. You're going to be able to go home. We're going to wrap it all up. They always say that the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes are the most important. So that's why we don't let kids go to the restroom in the first 10 or the last 10. But y'all don't need to know that. In the last 10 or last 5 that I have, let's review. He hears you. He will prove it to you. And he will be revealed. And we are his kids. The end. Ball game over. Let's do communion. That's it. Thank you.